So just over a couple of years ago now, I wrote an article all about new books. And what I didn't quite make clear in that article at the time was that the article was meant to convince myself as much as it was to convince anybody else. It was predicated on an idea proliferated by C.S. Lewis that essentially for every new book we read, we should read one old one. But what many people missed in that was the idea of reading new ones. When people use that quote, essentially that is to try and make people read older books, which honestly is an idea that I share. I think the reality of Christian literature throughout history is that so much of the things that we have left because of their greatness. However, that meant that for a good couple of years, I had essentially looked down on modern literature. Quite a problem for a modern writer living in the 2020s. And so I took to making sure that I spent some time reading newer books, newer articles, and I'm currently walking around the city of Oxford, which is just one of the most beautiful places in the world. And it's a place I come about once a month. And I was just thinking this morning about why it is that I come here. And so I thought I'd share that with you today. I think what it comes down to at the heart of it is trying to make myself feel small again. There's a bookstore here called Blackwells, and it's just one of my favorite places in the entire world. But I think what's interesting, and what I hadn't really, wrestled with up until today, was that when I go to this bookstore, I don't spend time looking at the new books. There's a row of books pretty much at the end of each section with the title Seconds. And these seconds are books that are on sale for one reason or another, mostly because they just haven't sold. Books that have been ignored by the public. Many of them have wonderful covers, brilliant ideas, and the authors are sometimes far better known than you might assume. And so I spend ages looking at these books, and more often than not, I don't buy anything new. I end up buying 2 or 3 more of these seconds than my wife would like. But I come back with them, and largely they're fantastic. I also walk around Oxford and I think about the people who lived here. I'm just a stone's throw away from the Lamb and Flag, where C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and the other Inklings would meet and discuss one another's writing which, even at its worst, is probably better than anything I will ever come up with, as well as countless Puritans and people that were trained here, literature from whom we would hold dear right up until the present day. Even right now, I'm reading The Christian in Complete Armour, the author of which was trained right here. And so not only is there a world-class university here, not only is there fantastic architecture, not only is there history, not only are there books that will likely rarely be read, even given their brilliance, but I'm here walking around among them and trying to figure out my place as a writer in 2025. Sometimes I imagine myself on that second shelf. I remember hearing from a writer named Jared Wilson. Somebody had once told him that the book that he had just written would really bless someone when it was found 10 years later on a sale in a church bookstore. And I often think about that. What if my book, maybe the only book I ever publish, will be such a blessing in 50 years' time? Or whatever, everything I write will be of no consequence until long after I'm dead. I think of artists and writers who in their own day were maligned or otherwise ignored, who later on were just seen as stalwarts of their craft in their time. There's part of me that prays that that's my legacy, that I never get to see it in this life, that actually God would bless me with obscurity throughout my life so that others could be blessed by my writing at the right time. I talked about modern books earlier, and one of the reasons I did that is because, to be perfectly honest with you, over the couple of years of reading modern books again and learning to appreciate them, I ended up reading more of those than I did older books. And I picked up some fantastic things throughout that time. I look back at my writing just a few years ago, and honestly, it's quite archaic. And that came from immersing myself in older literature and essentially copying what it was that I'd read there. And I think by reading newer stuff, I'm able to do it in a way that is probably more accessible, but I've also picked up other habits. I mentioned that one of the reasons I come to Oxford is to feel small again. And I actually think that healthy and something that I don't see a lot in modern literature. one of the things that is almost accepted now, especially given how marketing works within the world of writing, is essentially being your own biggest fan. And I'm not sure I want to be that. I'm not sure that that's healthy, and it's not something I want to emulate. And the reality is that the longer you're immersed in the 2020s writing sphere, the closer you get to that danger. And so this year I'm going to read more old literature. I'm not going to abandon modern stuff, but the reality is that I want to regain that feeling of smallness before the world, that idea that I'm just one person and I'm just writing, and I'm not going to change the world with my writing. I might not even make an impact in my life. I might end up on the second shelf at Blackwells, or maybe I won't even end up there. But by doing what I'm doing, writing for the glory of God and the good of his people, that even if only one person is stirred, even if this podcast goes out and only you listening gain from it, that's enough. And that in my small way, that I would point towards a much bigger God, that however small I feel in regards to Oxford, how much smaller am I before God? But even more remarkable than that, that great, wondrous, almighty God died for me and he died for you. When I come to Oxford, I feel like it was built for me. I'm inspired, I'm humbled, and it gives me the drive that I need again to write again. I'm really grateful for that. I'm really grateful that God gave me this gift. I just wanted to share some of that with you today. These thoughts are a bit all over the place, but hopefully there's something in them that's encouraging to you. So I pray that wherever you are, however big or small you feel, that you would see how much bigger God is today.